Imagine walking into a bank, casually approaching the teller, and instead of asking to withdraw a specific amount of money from your account, you whisper a secret phrase. Suddenly, the teller's eyes glaze over and she starts emptying the entire cash drawer, handing it over to you. Sounds like a plot from a Hollywood movie, right? Well, in the world of databases, there's something eerily similar: SQL injection. Now let's dive into the real life story of a teenager named Max, who is a high school student with a knack for computers. One day, he discovered he could manipulate the URL of his school's website to display the grades of all the students. He simply added a few special characters and commands into the URL, which is an example of SQL injection. With a simple trick, Max had effectively bamboozled the website into revealing confidential information. SQL injection at its core is a technique where malicious users can inject SQL commands into a SQL statement via the input data from the client to the application. It's like a secret whisper to the database, asking it to reveal its deepest secrets. Consider this. You're ordering a pizza online. You select your toppings, enter your address, and hit order. Behind the scenes, a SQL command runs, adding your order details into the database. Now, what if instead of typing in your address, you typed in a SQL command? A poorly secured website might just run that command, potentially revealing sensitive information or even altering the database. In the world of databases, SQL injection is a villain, a master of disguise. It slips in unnoticed, whispering its commands and creating havoc. But unlike in our bank scenario, there are ways to protect against this villain. Proper coding practices, input validation, parameterized queries. These are the superheroes in our story. They stand as a firm wall protecting the system from the malicious whispers of SQL injection. More about these key methods to protect against SQL injection attacks using parameterized queries or prepared statements. This is considered one of the best ways to prevent SQL injection. Parameterized queries separate the SQL code from the user input data, ensuring that user input is treated as data and not as part of the SQL command. This prevents malicious SQL code from being executed. Input validation and sanitization. Validate and sanitize all user input before using it in database queries. This includes removing or escaping special characters, checking for expected data types and lengths, and using allow lists to restrict input to known safe values. Principle of least privilege. Grant the minimum required database permissions to application accounts. Avoid using highly privileged accounts like database administrators for regular application operations. This limits the potential damage if a SQL injection attack succeeds. Use stored procedures. Stored procedures can provide an additional layer of security by controlling the SQL statements that can be executed and limiting the types of queries that can be constructed. Web application firewalls, or WAFs. Deploy a WAF in front of web applications to monitor and filter incoming traffic for potential SQL injection attempts based on predefined security rules and patterns. Keep software up to date. Regularly update and patch web application software, libraries, frameworks, web servers, and database servers to address known vulnerabilities that could be exploited for SQL injection. Error handling and logging. Implement proper error handling and logging mechanisms to avoid revealing sensitive information in error messages that could aid attackers in SQL injection attempts. Security testing. Regularly test applications for SQL injection vulnerabilities using techniques like static code analysis, dynamic testing, and penetration testing. Developer training. Provide training and awareness programs for developers on secure coding practices, input validation, and risks and prevention of SQL injection attacks. By implementing a combination of these methods, organizations can significantly reduce the risk of SQL injection attacks and protect their databases and applications from unauthorized access and data breaches. So, to sum it up, SQL injection is a coding technique where hackers insert malicious SQL statements into a SQL query. It's like convincing the teller at the bank to hand over all the money, not just the amount you're entitled to. It's a serious threat and one that has caused a lot of damage over the years. But with proper safeguards and coding practices in place, it's a threat that can be effectively managed. Remember, every line of code written is a potential door for hackers. It's up to the developers to make sure that door is securely locked. SQL injection might be a master of disguise, but with the right tools and practices, we can unmask this villain and keep our databases safe and secure. Thank you for visiting